Sorry if there's a bit of background noise on this one. I'll try to kind of mellow it out with a little bit of jazz music, the way I often do with the channel. But this one's a little bit last minute. Some things came up. I've got it was Sally's birthday on the weekend, so we're doing a few things with that. So I've got to get this video out fairly early. I've got a few streaming services available to me to watch things on, apart from the physical media, which of course I love. There's a few streaming services we've got that give us a little bit of content that we can't get other ways. Got Netflix, got Amazon Prime, I've got Anime Lab, I've got Shudder, I've got the two ones that are run by the federal government here, ABC iView and SBS On Demand, and we've got Tubi.tv. Now, Tubi.tv is what I'm going to talk about tonight, and yeah, it's night. That one's kind of eclectic. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. You can get religious programming, you can get stuff for kids, you can get foreign language films, you can get telenovelas, and you can get a whole bunch of really cool stuff as well. And it's all free. They throw ads occasionally, but they don't throw many of them at you. Now, this video is not at all sponsored by Tubi.tv, but I just thought, because this is a universally available streaming service, which doesn't cost anything. Well, when I say universally available, it assumes you've got some kind of an internet connection, a phone at least. So it's pretty much ubiquitous. Though I don't know whether China blocks it. I wonder if China blocks Tubi.tv. Let me know if you know. But I've got to stop rambling there. Yeah, so what I've got is I've got 10 movies that are on Tubi.tv that you should check out if you haven't already. Got a list there. Going to hit the list right now. First off, 1972, Fist of Fury, Bruce Lee's breakout movie, is on Tubi.tv. Haven't rewatched it for a while, but I did check out to see the quality, and it's a really nice print that they've cut the stream from. This one's the usual thing from early Bruce Lee movies, where he plays somebody who's a part of a kung fu school, and racist alternative schools have arisen, and he has to fight his way through a whole bunch of different guys with different martial arts skills, and it ends up with him fighting the big bad. In this case, it's a guy running a Japanese karate school who has a katana going up against Bruce Lee with nunchucks. Now, that's a really great scene. Beautifully shot, beautifully written. And yeah, I mean, I was attached to Bruce Lee movies before Enter the Dragon and before Bruce Lee died. We'd go down to Liverpool Street in Sydney, where there was a Chinese cinema that showed wuxia movies that had really bad subtitles. All the subtitles were white. And so if you saw them in the movie house and there was a white background, you couldn't read them. So if they were in a room that had a lot of white in it, you couldn't really read the subtitles well. But we persisted, and it was one of the things that me and a couple of friends of mine really loved watching, and revisiting a Bruce Lee movie has an intense nostalgia value for me. But I can also appreciate how good a film it is. So, Fist of Fury, you should definitely check out. Check out Way of the Dragon as well. I'm not sure whether it's on Tubi, but if you want to see Bruce Lee kick the shit out of Chuck Norris, that's your movie to go to. So that's the first one. Fist of Fury, 1972. Then we move on a decade and a bit to 1985 for Stuart Gordon's classic adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft short story, Reanimator. This one is great. It's got Jeffrey Combs, it's got Bruce Abbott, it's got Barbara Crampton, and it's great. There's a lot of body horror here, but it's so over the top crazy that you're going to appreciate it. There's a lecherous older scientist who does some incredible things when he gets his head cut off. It's very much in that 1980s VHS era fun. I think I may even have owned a VHS copy of Reanimator at one stage. I think I got rid of it when I got the DVD version, and I don't think I lost anything in that. Once DVD came along, I wasn't as in love with VHS as a lot of other people are. I kind of want the best quality I can get, and VHS just didn't give it to me. But Reanimator you should definitely check out. If you saw it back in the day, you're going to like it. If you haven't seen it, you're going to like the outrageousness of it. So Reanimator is definitely one to really check out. Then we go back to 1967 for a Jack Hill movie in black and white which is rightly a cult classic. And I'm glad this one's on Tubi. The theme song at the start of the film is sung by Lon Chaney Jr., one of the stars of the film. It also stars Sid Haig. And it is Jack Hill's Spider Baby, about the Merry family, an inbred family living in a big old country house, where after a certain age people become homicidal maniacs and then revert to a childlike state of being morons. One of the morons in this case is played by Sid Haig, who does not look pretty in this movie. But it's just kind of outrageous. There's a lot of murder in there. There are crazy younger Merry family members. And yeah, I haven't watched this one for a while. I really should revisit Spider Baby. In fact, I may add it to my list of things to get on Blu-ray because I haven't got a copy of it. I don't even know if I've got a DVD copy of it, but I really want to revisit Spider Baby when I'm in the right mood. Maybe I should do it for the next 24 hours. Let me know what you think, whether I should do Spider Baby for my next 24-hour marathon, because I really think that might be a fun thing to do. While we're on the subject of cult movies, you've got to go back to 1959 and Plan 9 from Outer Space. Plan 9 from Outer Space was for me the perfect midnight movie. It is outrageously silly and bad. If you've seen Ed Wood, you know about it. Directed by Edward D. Wood Jr. And it stars Tor Johnson, a little bit of Bela Lugosi, and Vampira. It's one of the worst written, worst acted, worst directed movies, and yet it is incredibly entertaining for all of the wrong reasons. And if you haven't seen Plan 9 from Outer Space for a while, get your popcorn. I'd suggest maybe a couple of cans of beer, if that's your kind of thing. Get a little bit of a skinful and just re-enjoy Plan 9 from Outer Space. And then we've got a couple of quality films. Yeah, it's not all shit. There are a couple of quality films on this list. By the way, I've got the camera propped up on a whole stack of DVDs and Blu-rays here, which is kind of cool. Anyway, I've talked about Billy Wilder on the channel before. Fantastic director, really interesting guy as well. And in 1953, I was right, I was guessing, I was thinking 1953, and yeah, my notes say it's right. 1953, he made an Academy Award-winning film, Starlake 13, about a bunch of POWs in a POW camp during World War II. The camp commandant is played by movie director Otto Preminger, and the movie stars William Holden, Peter Graves, and a bunch of other character actors. Really nicely done. They combine the horror of being in a prisoner of war camp with some comedy as well. It was probably one of the great influences on Hogan's Heroes, which of course took that comedy to an absurd length. But there's also a lot of drama in there. There's a spy in the camp and they've got to figure out who the spy is. And yeah, the tension ramps up nicely. I think it was based on a play, but it plays really well as a movie as well. And you should really check out Starlake 17 if you haven't, because it's just one of those classic films of the era which shows you where Hollywood was at the top end of things, and just how good an actor William Holden was when he was motivated to be that. So that's our number 5. Number 6 is a documentary. I said I was going to do a couple of quality ones, and it is from 1989 by Bruce Weber. It's one of the great jazz documentaries, in fact, and it's Let's Get Lost, based on the career of jazz trumpeter and singer Chet Baker. Now, if you've got a jazz playlist or a jazz collection and you don't have any Chet Baker on there, you're really going to have to fix that shit up, because he was a great trumpeter. He actually played with Charlie Parker. There's a photograph in the documentary of him playing with Charlie Parker. Really fine trumpet player, really great jazz singer. He did a few movies in Europe as a romantic lead as well, but he had his issues and his demons. He was very fond of the drink, and this movie kind of starts right toward the end of Chet Baker's career and kind of backfills on it. Beautifully shot in black and white, lovely cinematography, really well edited from the footage that was either found previously or was filmed specifically for the doco. But Bruce Weber's Let's Get Lost is one you should check out, and you can see it for free, which makes it even better. It really is a high recommend from me. One of the great cult films of the 1960s is my number 7 recommendation, on this list, and it's directed by Samuel Fuller. Any Samuel Fuller movie you can see is one you're going to enjoy. He was entertaining. He started out as a newspaper man, and he knew the seamy side of human life, and he knew how to tell a story. And when he came to make films, he used that particular skill set to just inform and give depth and a solidity to his movies, which stayed with him all through his career. And The Naked Kiss is one you've got to see. It stars Constance Towers and Anthony Isley. It's about a woman who was a sex worker who tries to start a new life in a small town, and who is kind of recreating herself. She's a nurse who works with children with special needs, and she gets involved with a couple of men in the town, one of whom's a cop, the other of whom is the wealthy man in town. And it's a redemption story for her, but it's also a story that talks about how people judge people by their earlier lives, and how people in glass houses very often throw stones. The Naked Kiss starts out with a beautiful opening scene that you should check out. In fact, you should see the whole movie, because it really does deal quite solidly with some issues that weren't really being talked about in Hollywood movies at the time. And I talked about with some subtlety in this movie, but with no ambiguity. So you should definitely check out The Naked Kiss. It is one of the great cult films of the 1960s. Number 8, you got to love. William Castle is a director whose movies you've got to see. There are a couple of box sets of William Castle's movies now, which I would get, except for the fact that I've already got a lot of those movies in other formats, and so I don't want to do that. But this one is the movie for which William Castle is probably best known, even though he was the producer on Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. He's known for his 1959 film The Tingler, starring Vincent Price and Darryl Hickman. It's about a pathologist who finds out that there's a creature that manifests in the human body during extreme fear and grabs people along the spine. And this scientist, played by Vincent Price, decides he's going to isolate the Tingler to study it. And things don't quite go the way he plans. He's not a nice person particularly, but again, this is a 1950s Vincent Price movie. And it's probably the first movie where you see anybody under any circumstances take LSD. And in this movie, Vincent Price's character takes LSD before the hippies had it, probably around the same time that Timothy Leary discovered it. But it makes for a really interesting section of the movie where he tries to scare himself by taking LSD. But the beautiful black and white for the most part, with one moment in the movie in colour. But you should check out The Tingler if you haven't already, and you should rewatch it if you haven't already. That brings us to the last two, which are dramas. First one is directed by a woman, Ida Lupino, and it's one of the movies that she did direct in the 1950s, when she was kind of not the young pretty actor she'd been in the 30s and 40s, and was really looking to move her career on behind the lens. And it is A Bigamist, which is pretty much what's on the label. Stars Edmund O'Brien as a man who has two families in two different cities, and his wives are played by Joan Fontaine and Ida Lupino. And this movie is a nice drama. It's made very much from the woman's point of view, and it does demonstrate and show and give us some really nice depth to the dilemma that these two women with their families have when their breadwinner is found to be, burning his candle at both ends. Really nice, solid movie. It has a really, really grounded ending that I like a lot. And it's a movie that I really want to try to get on some physical media when I get the chance to. Not sure whether it's in the public domain or not, but I want to make sure I get a decent copy of the movie on physical media to just add to the collection. It really is a solid drama, and again, a bit like The Naked Kiss, it was dealing with issues that weren't really dealt with in any adult way by Hollywood at the time. Last movie. You wouldn't expect a movie by an A director to turn up on a platform like Tubi, but it did. And it is a Hitchcock movie from 1954, and it is Dial M for Murder, based on a stage play starring Ray Milland and Grace Kelly. And I like it. It's about a man who plans and tries to arrange for his wife, played by Grace Kelly, to be murdered so he can collect the money. Now, leaving aside the credibility gap of anybody who's married to somebody who looks like Grace Kelly wanting to kill her, it really is one of those kind of solid dramas, solid detective drama, in very much in the English tradition. And it does have some nice jump scares, and it does follow through on the plot of an investigation really nicely. It's not a great Hitchcock, it's not Vertigo, it's not one of those kind of big ones, it's not even The Man Who Knew Too Much, but it's a solid, smaller budget, smaller scale Hitchcock movie, which you should check out if you haven't already. It really is a fulfilling little piece of cinema. So anyway, that's it on my 10 movies from Tubi.tv that you should check out. As always, please consider subscribing and throwing a like in there, and hit the notification bell, and let me know what movies you've watched on Tubi and which ones you'd recommend. There are a lot of them there. There are tons and tons of old westerns, so if you're an old western fan, you're well catered for on that platform. But I like the fact that it exists, and I like the fact that it gives us stuff that may not turn up elsewhere. It's got a whole bunch of black variety films from the 1940s, which don't often turn up on other platforms. It really does kind of cover a very, very wide range of cinema over a very wide range of a very large time scale. So you really should check out Tubi.tv if you haven't already. So anyway, please watch some good movies, watch some bad movies, watch a few movies on Tubi. Take care of yourselves. Wear a mask, follow the science, and I'll catch you next time.